from Ballyhale's point of view, like they're massive favourites. There's no two ways about it. But they do have injury concerns over Darren Mullen, who obviously came back who came off in the semi-final early doors, but I believe he might be okay. Joey Cuddihy also came off. We've heard, both you and I separately have heard talk that maybe Adrian Mullen is carrying a knock. That would be a huge blow because I now see him as the engine around the field. But they're looking for a 9th Club All-Ireland title, which is quite ridiculous.
Yeah, no, you pulled out a nice little stat there, Shane, about, I think there's 4 players from Ballyhale. You might go into it there. I think this is kind of bamboozling, really. And to me, if you're a Dunloy manager, you don't want to be hearing stats like this and things like this on the eve of the final, because it just shows you what you're coming up against. Yeah,
so like Ballyhale won their first, Shamrocks as they like to be called, won their first All-Ireland title in 1981. So they've won 8 at this stage. The next highest the next team in the Roll of Honour is jointly Burr and Portumna with 4 each. There's 4 Ballyhale Shamrocks players that have more All-Ireland titles in the bag already than Burr and Portumna. So the only team with more All-Irelands than them is their own club. TJ and Owen Reid, they have 5 All-Ireland club titles, and the same with Colin and Michael Verney. So 3 of those 4 lads are looking to get their 6th All-Ireland club title. It's nuts when you put it that way.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know for the Offaly Football Championship, Alan McNamee is 3rd in the Roll of Honour by himself with 13 titles, and then Tullamore ahead of him, then Roder number 1. But this is outrageous, really. And as you said, 3 of them, a trio going for a 6th All-Ireland crown. And Shane as well, like, you have to think about it. If COVID hadn't existed in 2020 and Harry Rudden hadn't scored a goal, like, they could be going for 5 in a row. Do you know what I mean? Like, they've only been beaten once since Henry Shefflin took over in a meaningful knockout championship game. They've been beaten once, and that was with a goal in the last minute. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's nuts when you look at it.
That's the size of the task facing Dunloy. And, we were talking about it beforehand. So when, like, they've lost 4 All-Ireland club titles before, which means that they've obviously won 4 All-Ireland club semi-finals, not including the one recently enough against St. Thomas's, where they were brilliant. But have they ever come out of an Ulster club championship and been favoured in an All-Ireland club championship game, whether it's an All-Ireland semi-final or final? Because I think, rightly or wrongly, and I suppose the stats over the year would say rightly, Ulster teams generally come in as underdogs. So I would imagine this is no different to any other game where they've played. They are underdogs.
Yeah, I think they have I think Ulster teams have a 15% strike rate in All-Ireland semi-finals. And obviously, that's Dunloy 5 times, definitely Lochiel twice, maybe more. O'Donovan Rossa were in a final as well. But just going back to the 5 semi-finals that they have won. So they beat Athenry in 95, big underdogs. Glenmore in 96, Mount Sion in 03, Portumna in 04, and Thomas's earlier on this year. And an interesting one as well, Gregory O'Kane, who's their manager. Dunloy have won 16 county titles since 1990. That 1990 was their first. And he has been involved in every county title win, either as a player or as a coach or as a manager. He's been involved in every Ulster success, every All-Ireland semi-final win, and every All-Ireland final that they've been in. It's remarkable, really. But something you said there, aside from their first All-Ireland final appearance when they played Burr in that drawn game, it finished 9-9 Patrick's Day in 95, and we were pox to get a result. Dottie Regan got not free, he hit a long ranger at the end in thunder and lightning. We were blessed to get a result. We won comprehensively the second day, but they probably underperformed in 96 against 6 Mile Bridge. They underperformed in 02 against us again. They underperformed in 03 against us. They underperformed in 04 against Newtown. And I think and they were nearly all double-digit losses. Like, it doesn't get much easier on Sunday, but I think they'll want to, like, if they're able to give one of those semi-final winning performances in a final, then if they don't win, they don't win. But they will be disappointed with how they've performed in the finals outside of that first one.
I presume you were too young to remember it, but that time after the drawn game against Burr, going into the replay, was everyone saying they'd missed their chance and Burr was still overwhelming favourites, or were people tipping Dunloy at the time?
No, I think Burr were still favourites. I actually didn't get to go to the replay because it clashed with, I'm going to say, like, my sister's confirmation or my sister's communion, one or the other.
Maybe one of those Energizer discos. You were going to have to get the shift.
But what was I going to say to you? A couple of I remember one of the Hanafis got their confirmation or communion somewhere else that day to make sure they could go to the game. I remember it was a big conflict around town, but the contrast between Patrick's Day in 1995, it was thunder and lightning, woeful weather. When they played in the replay, it was literally the nicest day of the year. Paul Murphy got 2 goals, and I think we hit 3-13 the same day, and the game was over by half time. And I don't know whether that had a knock-on effect on some of their All-Ireland final performances since, but they haven't delivered their best since anyway. Definitely not.
We'll go through some of the comments here. Porrick Grace says Ballyhale will go for the jugular early. Could be won in the first 10 minutes. Would love to see Dunloy win in All-Ireland. Would deserve it, being a fine club down the years. Mikey Doyle says I would give Dunloy a chance. They're not as bad as people think. I certainly think we're going to be looking at the positives.
We don't think they're bad anyway. Definitely not.
Certainly not. Porrick Grace adds again, they're a fine team. If they were in Kilkenny, I would predict they'd be the second best team or thereabouts. Ballyhale are special. Porter, I hope Dunloy do well, but they're playing the best club team since Portumna. Porrick Grace again, St. Thomas has looked overconfident when saying that the scoreline flattered the Galway lads. Be worried about Dunloy and the physical stakes, although St. Thomas's are a big team and it didn't affect Dunloy. A Sully 180 was in the Nally the day of the first game, atrocious conditions.
Yeah, it was cat. It was brutal the same day. It was absolutely brutal. I'm only kind of thinking as well, Shane, like where would this rank in terms of, you know, upsets? I don't think this is an upset. I think I'm actually doing a piece for the paper on Saturday where I'm talking about like how to make a miracle happen almost. Like what's the ingredients to, and like Mullinachta would definitely be one, and it was obviously known as the miracle of Mullinachta. Other club games we were kind of chatting beforehand, I think Kilcormac were like 4-1, 9-2 when they played Thurles in that All-Ireland semi-final in 2012. What other ones would spring out to you? Because they're like 13-2 outsiders. But the only thing I'd say to you as well is they were outsiders against Stockneal in the Ulster final. They're outsiders against Thomas's. It's not a big departure for them. It shouldn't affect their psyche. And as Ryan Elliott said yesterday to the media as well, and he probably said it to yourself, they're always underdogs. Ulster teams are nearly always categorized as underdogs. But what are the other great upsets that you can think of? Because this would be right up there.
You'd have to talk about Mount Leinster Rangers against Oulart. And within the camp, the same as any time that there's a shock here, within the camp, there would have been belief. Maybe not everybody, but you would have had enough people believe it. Like the time that Mount Leinster won that, the outpouring of joy. And sometimes it's that outpouring of joy that lets you know that this was a shock. We were mentioning St. Mullins beating Cool at that time, albeit the injuries that we had on the day, which I don't like bringing up.
And you weren't playing.
Well, no, I'd say more so Con, Ushing Goff and Cullum Cronin. They might have had something to do with it. I suppose those would be the ones that would stick out to me. If people have any comments, let us know of other teams. Lochgiel were 3-1 to beat Coolderry in 2012. Yeah, I'd forgotten that they were fair outsiders that day. Let's
at county level, Shane, just really quickly, because I was chatting to Rory Jacob. Wexford beating Kilkenny in 2004 was massive. Like massive one. Donegal 7 or 8-1 to beat the Dubs in 2014.
It was huge,
huge. And I know they had a few quid on themselves. But it has to be, and even just chatting about the psyche, this is not a thing where you can switch on something on a day. Like this has to be almost ingrained in you over a time. So I was chatting to Gary Rogers from Mullinachta, and he was saying, you know, that was our 3rd time in Leinster, I think he was saying. And it's like we built up a belief over time that we could fight it out with anyone in Leinster. It didn't just happen on the day. We didn't just deliver a performance. We did deliver a performance, but it built up over time. If you look at Dunloy, Schlockneil have been beating them for the last couple of years. This is something, they've loads of experience at provincial level. They've good experience on Ireland level traditionally. So this is kind of built up over time. And even chatting Rory Jacob about Wexford had ran Kilkenny to within 2 points 2 years before that. So the belief element there, it shouldn't be for a lack of belief anyway, from a Dunloy point of view anyway.
Yeah, Lochgiel against Na Piarsaigh, that was also that was 2012, wasn't it? That was a game in Parnell Park that went extra time. I remember we'd been playing a challenge to Moneygall the same day, and we went into the Ollie Hayes' pub, you know, the man who served up to Barack Obama. That was probably about a year after Obama was down there. Anyway, and we were watching that game on TV. It was a cracker. So let's look at some of the matchups that'll happen. Now, maybe it won't pan out exactly like this. Maybe Darren Mullen won't be playing. Maybe Adrian Mullen will be injured. And obviously, we've also mentioned Joey Cuddihy. But there's probably a certain amount of matchups. And number one thing to mention is, will Paul Shields be playing in midfield? For who? Wouldn't be entirely sure. But when he came on against St. Thomas's, He had such a steadying influence. And I'd say it was a huge reason that they got over the line, even though a lot of people played really well. But Keelan Malloy, he'll probably spend time out midfield and I suppose going out anywhere where there's space so he can turn and run at his man. He has to ensure that Richie Reid has a few conundrums throughout this game, because if Reid ends up getting more possessions than anyone else on the field, that will be a fair sign that the pressure is going on the Dunloy backs. They're smashing the ball up the field and Richie Reid's going to town.
Yeah, there's nothing surer than Evan Shefflin, Richie Reid and Dara Corcoran are going to try and hold their ground as much as possible. You have them quite close to Conal Cunning, Sean Elliott, and that's where they'll want to be. If you pull them up around the 65 and around midfield, that's where Dunloy will be trying to create that bit of space. They'll be trying to pull them out of position. I'd say particularly Keelan Malloy will be given a license to roam as far out there as possible and try and pull Reid away from there. If he obviously is coming out that far, that clogs up the middle a bit. Richie Reid will probably sit back. They have to be really aware of, and I thought they were pretty good at it. I thought in the Thomas's game, some of the diagonal ball that went in totally negated the sweeper at times. David Burke was taken out of the game at times, and I know that somebody else in there at different stages as well, but they're going to have to be so clever with that ball in. But Keelan Malloy is going to have to ask, he's not going to be there the whole time, but he's going to have to ask Richie Reid an awful lot of questions. He's going to have to try and make him uncomfortable. It's funny, I was chatting to Rory Jacob about that Wexford game in all-4, and he said they tried to do something different maybe that they'd never done before, and he thought it was gas looking back on it. Barry Lambert was wing forward and Paul Carley was the other wing, and their sole instruction was that when Damien Fitzhenry was starting his run up for the puck out, they just looked at him and they just sprinted to the opposite side of the field as fast as they possibly could. And he said Brian Hogan was one wing and Sean Dowling were the other, and they followed them, and it created space, and Fitzhenry hit grass, and he said it's so naive of a tactic, but it was just different and they'd never really seen it before and it worked. And then he said, we played Offaly in the Leinster final and it didn't work at all, but they tried something different on the day and it worked. And it'd be interesting to see if Dunloy are able to try, what will they try to take Ballyhale out of their comfort zone. But they're you know, those big players up front, Keelan Malloy, Sean Elliott, Conal Cunning, they're going to have to get on the ball. Like, Dunloy were struggling in the semi-final at stages. Thought Keane Matney did a decent job on Cunning for maybe the first 40 minutes. Then I thought the quality of ball going in was so much better that no cornerback was really going to be able to deal with it. And we're talking about matchups and things. Like, is Joey Holden on Conal Cunning a realistic matchup, I'd say, given the job that he did on Desi Hutchinson when Hutchinson was in there last day in the semi-final?
Yeah, I think that's a definite matchup that's going to happen. ML89 says, Dunloy losing their 5th All-Ireland will bring them level with Radnure as the club with the most final losses. A bit of an unwanted history. Flash drives the boot in saying, heading for Mayo territory there. Crazy how dominant a side like Ballyhale are for a club. It took an absolute wonder goal at the death to beat them. Mike Doyle says, Shane Michael, if you were Dunloy's manager, any particular tactic you would try or target? So one that I'd be interested in is seeing like Nigel Elliott. He was so good the last day. Will they try and isolate him in space with Evan Shefflin? Like, Evan Shefflin's an excellent hurler, and especially when he's going forward on the ball. But if he's been run at like any back, really, you are that little bit susceptible. I think Keelan Malloy could end up going over on one of the wings as well, maybe run at Dara Corcoran or Shefflin. Again, you kind of want 5 or 6 Keelan Malloys and just have players running at, obviously running through. But like, can they leave Richie Reid free? Would they consider just moving Smith in and just tell him, look, just get in there close to Richie Reid, more or less mark him from the front. And if that means leaving the likes of Killian Corcoran free to be the spare man, let them do that. So I think you wouldn't always do it, but I think this is a situation where you would man-mark one of the defenders. Sorry, yeah, you would man-mark him. Now, maybe if Darren Mullen ended up being the spare man, you know, that's going to obviously be someone who can do a lot of damage from the back for Ballyhale also. But I think that would probably be a tactic I'd go with. What would you think? Do you think that could go awry, or do you think you could get some joy out of that?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. If you're going to leave somebody free, you want to leave somebody who's going to be not necessarily uncomfortable, but less comfortable. Like, if Richie Reid is free, you've got one of the best ball strikers on the field, dictating affairs, and the ball is probably going to land to him quite a bit, and he's going to be an outlet, and short puck-outs will be hit to him and different things. So it's really difficult from a forward, and I've never actually really played the role in the forwards. I don't know whether you have, where you're actually marking, where you're marking somebody and you're trying to juggle, and just say they realise what's going on after 3 minutes, and then all of a sudden Darren Mullen is free, and you just say, I'm not picking on Killian Corcoran or whoever it is, but you've been told to leave a specific player free. Very funny, actually. We played Belmont a couple of years ago, and my cousin was playing cornerback for them, and I don't even know if it was a pre-arranged tactic or what. I can't even remember. But he was left free a lot of the time, and they beat us by a point, and he comes over to me after, he was laughing. He says, "Jeez, you don't think much of me anyway, leaving me free the whole time." I was kind of laughing about it, but like, you need to kind of turn that into a positive. You need to, if a team has targeted a particular player and thinks they're not comfortable on the ball, either they need to really revel in that role, or they need to get somebody else into that role. But that's definitely something, and keeping them thinking. And if Darren Mullen is switched, you're switching over on him. If you want to keep a certain player free, and at least you want to keep them thinking, and that they don't have the whole puzzle fixed before they go out or after a couple of minutes. You want to be throwing lots of different curveballs at them to keep them on their toes, and just try and take them out of their stride. But listen, I'm sure Ballygunner were trying several different things in the semi-final that we mightn't even know about, and Ballyhale just took everything in their stride and dictated affairs. And that's the thing. It's so difficult to impose your tactics on a game, even after 5 or 6 minutes, if the opposition is, on the front foot, chest out, and are driving forward everywhere, and they're all on their game.
Yeah, I had to do that role once. I was playing full forward, and I was told to come out and just basically stop the sweeper for Kilmacud. I think this was in the 2017 county final, because Ross O'Carroll was getting on an awful lot of ball. So I went out, and he was basically not the sweeper then, and the guy who did become the sweeper made a few mistakes on the ball. So it definitely does make a difference. And if you could stop Richie Reid taking over the game, it's not an easy thing to do. And I feel like I'm about to be sneered here, but like, it was effective.
No, I'm just thinking like, you always hear it, like, you're leaving the cornerback free who you don't think is comfortable on the ball. He doesn't want it. That's all you'd hear. And you're trying to ramp it up almost. And if he, takes a bad touch on the ball, you're all over him, and lads are in his face. He doesn't want it, louder and louder, and you're ramping up the pressure. Whereas, particularly if it's a rookie player that maybe hasn't played in an All-Ireland final, and that's probably why we've mentioned Killian Corcoran, and he's a fine player, by the way, and could blow that notion or a thought completely out of the water. But you just want to put someone in an uncomfortable position, maybe who doesn't have as much experience. Leave Richie Reid free, and he'll kill you. There's no point in saying any different. Leave him free, and he'll deliver all sorts of ball into the forwards and just completely dictate things.
Yeah, I mean, Kilkenny over the years, they put Shefflin on whoever was the rookie. I mean, it would be naive of Dunloy to not target the younger guy who's still playing for Kieran's, and leave him free for all the puckouts and man mark basically everyone else who's really comfortable on the ball. It would be naive not to do that. So I think but the problem then is if they go long on top of Adrian Mullen or Owen Cody, or if TJ Reid and Colin Fennelly come out, you've got other problems anyway. I wouldn't be surprised, and no more than yourself, if TJ Reid and Colin Fennelly start inside a nice bit. Obviously, try to drag out the centre back and pump long ball in. Even if you do have a centre back in there as well, and you put 2v3, I think Ballyhale would fancy their chances of getting enough breaks, especially with the other runners they have coming in off it. Look, there's no point in trying to say it any other way. It's very hard to make a case for Ballyhale Shamrocks not winning this game.
Yeah, and I think the question that was asked about, like, are there any particular tactics that you would do? I don't think you can bamboozle a team as well. I think you have a couple of, foundations that you go with, or particular matchups you go with on a given day, but you really have to have a fair degree of trust in your own performance. There can't be a load of caveats on, you're definitely marking TJ, you're doing this, and like TJ goes out midfield and all of a sudden the cornerback is playing midfield or a full, do you know what I mean? A lot of it does have to be based on what we do well and trying to make sure that we do that as best as possible, with a couple of little tweaks of maybe players that you're going to go after or whatever. And I don't know about you, but like, if there's a definite matchup that you're looking at, sometimes I wouldn't make it too obvious. If TJ starts centre back and you're to be picking him up, you'd let the centre back maybe pick him up for the first couple of minutes, and then you go out on him, and then it doesn't. Do you know what I mean? It's not. it's not as big of a deal then almost as well. You kind of probably take lads in their position, whereas if you go run to a lad straight away, kind of you're almost like, I don't know, maybe they're just thinking there's maybe an added pressure on yourself there as well. But it's going to be fascinating to see, can they bring what they brought against Thomas's? If they bring what they brought against Thomas's and they convert what they didn't convert in the first half, they'll give themselves a chance. But they're going to have to start so well, because you're not going to come from behind against Ballyhale. You're going to have to be neck and neck with them after 15 or 20 minutes. If they hit a couple of early goals, I'd be surprised if it wasn't lights out.
Yeah, you just don't want a repeat of what happened to Clough Ballacalla a couple of years ago. I mean, even if you do concede a goal or two here and there, just stay calm. Don't try and force goals. Just keep trying to pop over the points. If a goal comes, fair enough, take it. From what I hear, Shamrocks have 10 on the Kilkenny panel outside of Holden, and Fenley says hurling 1, 2, 3, 4. That's enough said. Yeah, you would hear reports of that. Some backs are more comfortable hanging off the forward and never touching the ball, and he doesn't want to be free. If he gets the ball, he'll just turn and lash it down the field. Which Ballyhale will you get? The 60-minute team that played Ballygunner, or the team that was blowing hot and cold before that? John Collins, Johnny Crowley, 1986 All-Ireland final. PJ Malloy played third midfielder. Johnny won man of the match. So I can't remember what that relates to what we were talking about earlier on, but keep the comments coming in anyway. Is there anything else we want to talk about on this? Get your comments in and let us know who you think will win.
No, just so many things are going to have to go right for Dunloy realistically, and not been in any way disingenuous to him, but a Ballyhale team in 3rd/4th gear will win this game. If they hit 5th or 6th, they potentially could steamroll them. But I think we're just hoping that Dunloy can impose themselves like they did on Schlockneil and like they did on Thomas's. And he said, causing a big upset is, they've done it before. They've been, big underdogs in 5 All-Ireland semi-finals, including the one against Thomas's, big underdogs against Schlockneil. Can they do it again? That's the big one.
Yeah, John Collins just clarifying that's about leaving the cornerback free. I just mean now for the puckouts, but fair enough point all the same.
Just on that as well, it's gone, but it has moved on some amount from the bogey cornerback who's just pulling a jersey. Do you know what I mean? You don't really, at real elite club, you don't have a lad who's just pulling a jersey and can't, do 20 or 30 yard accurate stick passes out, can't build the play. That's the way the game has gone now, even at club level. What's you don't call it a bogey. What's the word you use? You have no, that's way too strong. There's always there's a word you use anyway for if a team is carrying someone. It's not a weak link. I forget what it is, but you'll probably say it at some stage during the show, and I'll bring it back then.